Hi guys. Today I thought I would do a video on accepting your health anxiety because I think it's an issue that a lot of health anxiety sufferers confront at some point or another in stages of their recovery. And I think potentially it's one of the hardest things to deal with. So basically, in my opinion, and this is all my opinion, I don't believe it's possible to recover from something that you are unwilling to admit that you have in the first place. So I think the problem with both of the terms, health anxiety and hypochondria, is the fact that obviously hypochondria is an abbreviation of the common abbreviation of hypochondriasis. And I'm sure most of you have heard the term hypochondria many times, and probably you don't feel that, even if you do feel that you have health anxiety, you don't relate to the word hypochondria. And that is mainly, I would say, because of the media. You know, how many times have you watched a movie where somebody's concerned about something and a friend says to them, "Oh my God, you're such a hypochondriac"? Because the problem with the term hypochondria is the fact that it's been used so many times and it's been used as an insult. It's got negative connotations to it, and it is usually used in a comedy sense to put somebody in their place for being irrational and stupid and overreacting and doing it for attention and that kind of thing. So these days, if you're somebody a hypochondriac, you're calling them a paranoid, and you're laughing at them. And I think the term hypochondriac in the health anxiety community is not a word that we particularly like used for that reason, because we feel like it's a source of mockery. If you were to say to a person, "I suffer from hypochondria," they would find that a source of amusement more than likely, as opposed to take it seriously as an actual psychological disorder. So we don't like that term, most of us. So the other term that's generally used for it these days, the acceptable term for it, is health anxiety. It's like the layman's term for hypochondriasis. And the problem with the term health anxiety is it's too relatable. Everybody experiences health anxiety, and everybody at some point in their life, if not many times in their life, has had anxiety about their health. And that I would consider to be normal. That is a normal human reaction. You know, it's self-preservation. We want to look after our bodies and make sure that we stay alive. So everybody can relate to health anxiety. So the problem with using the term health anxiety is the fact that if you say to somebody, "I suffer from health anxiety," they don't realize you're talking about hypochondriasis, health anxiety disorder, which is a mental health problem. They think you're talking about you're feeling anxious about your health, which they can relate to. So in a way, using the term health anxiety trivializes the issue. So if you say to somebody, "I suffer from health anxiety," I don't think it conveys the enormity of the problem. So people don't really understand that you're talking about a disorder as opposed to just fleeting moments of anxiety. So I think that's where the problem stems from. You can find it difficult if you are experiencing health anxiety and you're still going for the medical tests and running around in circles and getting paranoid and frightened about your health with no rational basis for it, no evidence. Then you can not want to use the term health anxiety because it sounds too generalized. It doesn't sound like a problem. And you don't want to call it hypochondria because then you're a source of mockery. So I can understand why people don't want to use it. So I would say that regardless of what term you want to call it, it's a personal thing. It doesn't really matter what other people consider it to be, whether you use hypochondriasis, hypochondria, or health anxiety. It's not really relevant to other people. It's more relevant to you primarily because you're the one who is actually dealing with the problem. So you need to firstly address whether or not you have a disorder, the health anxiety disorder, hypochondriasis, as opposed to just normalized sort of health anxiety, which is somebody who might have a concern about a problem they've got medically, or a symptom, and that passes and then it's, not ongoing. That's normal. That is normal and that's rational. When it's not rational and when it becomes a disorder, is the point at which, I would say after 6 months, if you're still going around in circles, so you had a trauma or something that scared you or frightened you or a bad experience, and then you found yourself being irrational or overreacting about your health, that may be difficult for you to identify, and you may feel that it's real and it's not psychological. However, if that's been going on for, say, 6 months, and you're running around looking for some kind of a diagnosis from a doctor, and they have no evidence to support a thing that you think that you have or anything, and that's been going on for 6 months, and you are still chronically paranoid that you're dying, then that would go into the realm of having hypochondriasis, health anxiety disorder. So I would say that it's the first stage of recovery. If you want to recover, no matter how long you've been in this situation, panicking about symptoms, believe me, the easiest way to get to a point of recovery is at least accepting that you have the disorder in the first place, and being able to differentiate and say this is not normal. At the point that you realize it's not normal because it's controlling your life, then you really need to address the fact that it is a psychological problem and not a medical problem. And I know that's a massive leap of faith. You're putting all of your eggs in one basket and trying to accept the fact that it could be emotional or psychological, but that means letting go of the search for a diagnosis for a medical illness. Looking for signs of cancer or lymphoma or MS or whatever it is that you're frightened of. It means letting go of that in order to accept that it's psychological. But the thing is, if you've been in that situation for a while and you're struggling and you really want to recover, you have all the evidence to show that your way isn't working, and you only need to look at the patterns that you're going through, skipping from one symptom to another and never being okay. That do you not think that perhaps you might be more comfortable trying to deal with an emotional disorder, because there's lots of resources for recovery for that, rather than believing that you're dying on a constant basis? I mean, I know what that feels like. It feels like hell. So, surely the alternative and just giving it a go and treating it as a psychological disorder, as opposed to seeking medical diagnosis for some kind of illness, surely that's going to be much easier for you to deal with. And because if it's an emotional disorder and it's not life-threatening, isn't that the better option to choose? If you feel that it's actually health anxiety, call it health anxiety and act as if it's health anxiety. Therefore, stop feeding it by looking for test after test and medical reassurance and everything you can to try and probe for something and look for evidence of something which isn't there. Because if it's psychological and you're looking for evidence that it's medical, how can you prove that something isn't there? That's never ending. You're never going to move on from that point if you're trying to prove that something isn't there. You can prove that something is there. That's easy enough done. But when you've had the tests and nothing's coming up to say that there's a problem, you need to start moving on addressing the psychological aspect. Because if you're going to hunt for something that's not there, there's no evidence for, then, how different is that from being a person who believes in aliens and spends every night looking at the sky, even though they've never seen one? It's irrational. Although that's a different subject. Obviously, I don't want to upset anybody who believes in aliens. So admit you have the problem. Admit that you have health anxiety disorder, hypochondriasis, and you may just find that if you tackle it from an emotional perspective or psychological perspective as opposed to looking for medical diagnosis from doctors for a physical condition, then you might very well find that your life will change for the better and quite quickly. Okay, so I hope that's of help to somebody. My thoughts are with you if you're still in denial about the problem, and I really do hope that at some point you will be able to look inwardly and discover that there are different routes that you could be taking to solve this problem. Okay then, so until next time, bye bye.